You know Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, the weapon that levels mountains and always flies back to his hand. But look closely and something is off. The handle is too short. Thor has to swing the most powerful weapon in the 9 realms one-handed, like a hatchet. That flaw is not an accident. It is the fault of one troublemaker, and his name runs through almost every story the Norse ever told: Loki. The same trickster who gave the gods their greatest treasures is the one who will one day burn their world to ash. Loki is not a villain in the way we usually mean it. He is stranger than that. Part god, part giant, a shapeshifter who can become a salmon, a fly, a mare, an old woman. He is Odin's sworn blood brother. He lives among the gods of Asgard, and for a long time, he is their sharpest tool. When the gods are trapped, Loki talks them out. When they need the impossible, Loki finds a way. Yet every solution he brings arrives with a hidden hook, and the trouble is usually his to begin with. It starts, the way a lot of his stories do, with a cruel little joke. One night, Loki creeps up on Sif, Thor's wife, and shears off her long golden hair while she sleeps. When Thor finds out, he is ready to break every bone in Loki's body. So Loki does what he always does. He promises to fix it, and goes looking for someone else to do the actual work. He goes down to the world of the dwarves, the finest smiths in all creation. He talks the sons of Ivaldi into forging new hair for Sif out of real gold, hair that will grow like the living kind. And while they are at it, they make 2 more wonders: a ship named Skidbladnir that always finds a fair wind and folds up small enough to fit in a pouch, and the spear Gungnir, which never misses. Loki could have stopped there. He never does. Feeling clever, he struts over to 2 more dwarves, the brothers Brokkr and Sindri, and bets them his own head that they cannot forge 3 treasures to match. The brothers take the wager. Loki, realizing he might actually lose, does what he does best. He cheats. As one brother works the bellows and the other shapes the metal, Loki turns himself into a fly and begins to bite. He stings a hand. He stings a neck. Neither dwarf flinches. But as the last and greatest piece is being forged, he lands on an eyelid and bites down hard enough to draw blood. The dwarf lets go of the bellows for a single moment to wipe his eye. A moment is all it takes. The hammer that comes out of the fire is flawless in every way but one. The handle is too short. That is why Mjolnir looks the way it does. A god cheated, and a masterpiece came out slightly broken. The brothers carry the treasures up to Asgard, and the gods judge Mjolnir the greatest of them all, short handle and everything, which means Brokkr has won the bet. He has come to collect Loki's head. But Loki, cornered, only smiles. "Take my head if you can," he says, "but not one slice of my neck." The neck was never part of the deal. There is no way to take a head without touching the neck, and everyone knows it. Robbed of his prize, the furious dwarf settles for sewing Loki's mouth shut instead. It does not hold him for long. Nothing ever does. The hammer was not even his strangest gift. Once, to save Asgard from a building contract gone wrong, Loki turned himself into a mare and lured away a giant's tireless stallion. Some months later, he came back, leading a gray foal with 8 legs, and handed it to Odin. That foal was Sleipnir, the finest horse in all the 9 realms, able to gallop over sea and sky and down into the land of the dead. Even Loki's blessings were born sideways. This is the Loki people love. The clever rascal whose schemes somehow leave the gods richer than before. There was another side to him, though, one the gods worked very hard not to look at. Because Loki had children, and a prophecy had already been spoken about them. Far from the shining halls of Asgard, Loki had taken a giantess named Angerboda as a lover, and together they had 3 children, and no ordinary infants. The first was Fenrir, a wolf that grew larger and hungrier by the day. The second was Jormungand, a serpent already long enough to trouble the sea. The third was a daughter named Hel, one half of her a living woman, the other half the blue-black of a corpse. The gods heard a prophecy that these 3 would help bring about their doom, so they moved first. Odin hurled the serpent into the ocean that rings the world, where it grew until it could circle all of Midgard and close its jaws on its own tail. He sent Hel down into the mists below and gave her a kingdom there, a realm for everyone who dies of sickness or old age. The wolf Fenrir they chose to raise among themselves, where they could keep an eye on him. But Fenrir would not stop growing, until only one god, Tyr, was brave enough to feed him. Frightened of what the wolf was becoming, the gods tricked him into being bound, swearing it was only a test of strength. Fenrir agreed on one condition. Someone had to place a hand between his jaws as a pledge of good faith. Only Tyr stepped forward, and when the wolf understood he had been chained for good, he bit the hand clean off. The gods had their monster chained. They had also made an enemy who would remember. Then Loki did the thing that could never be undone. Baldr, another of Odin's sons, was the most beloved of all the gods, radiant and gentle, and he had begun to dream of his own death. His mother Frigg was so afraid that she went out across the whole world and made every single thing swear an oath never to harm him. Fire, iron, stone, sickness, every beast and every plant. She was thorough. But she passed over one small sprig of mistletoe, thinking it far too young and harmless to bother with. Since nothing could hurt Baldr now, the gods turned it into a game. They would throw stones and spears and axes at him and roar with laughter as everything bounced harmlessly away. Everyone was delighted. Everyone except Loki. He found out about the mistletoe. He carved it into a dart, and he carried it to Baldr's blind brother, Hodr, who stood apart from the game because he could not see to join in. Loki offered to guide his hand. Hodr threw. And the one thing in all the world that had never sworn the oath went straight through Baldr, and the brightest of the gods fell dead. The grief was beyond anything Asgard had known. One hope remained. A messenger rode down into Hel's dark kingdom to beg for Baldr back, and the death goddess offered a bargain. If every single thing in the world, living and dead, would weep for him, she would let him return. So the plea went out, and the whole cosmos wept. Gods, giants, beasts, stones, even the metal in the ground ran with tears. Every single thing. Except one. In a cave sat an old giantess named Thok, who said only that she had no tears to give, and that Hel could keep what was hers. The giantess was Loki, and so Baldr stayed dead. That was the end of the gods' patience. They hunted Loki down, and this time there was no clever way out. They took 2 of his sons and turned one into a wolf, which tore the other apart. With the dead son's entrails hardened into iron, they bound Loki across 3 stones deep in a cave. Above his face, Skadi fixed a serpent to drip venom onto him forever. Only his wife, Sigyn, stayed. She holds a bowl over his face to catch the poison. But each time she turns away to empty it, the venom falls, and Loki thrashes so violently that the whole earth shakes. That, the Norse said, is what an earthquake is. And there he waits, because this is not the story of a villain who is finally beaten. It is a countdown. At Ragnarök, the end of all things, Loki will break loose. He will take the helm of Naglfar, a ship built entirely from the untrimmed nails of the dead, and steer the armies of chaos against the gods who chained him. On that last field, he meets Heimdall, the watchman of the Rainbow Bridge, and the two of them cut each other down together. The trickster who forged the gods their treasures leads the host that ends them. So was Loki a monster, or the chaos that every order secretly leans on? The Norse never quite decided. He is the friend and the betrayer, the maker and the destroyer, the one who hands you a masterpiece with a flaw hammered right into it. Mythling is where the old stories wake up,